You can see the picture in the background. I want to show it even more clearly to you. If we go to the next slide now. Now we can go to the next slide. You see the picture? What's interesting about the picture? The pictures that we show for a screen are normally, they're there for a reason. Not because they're nice. You always check the background picture of every single message. And we always use those because that's what the Lord has told us to. But I have a confession to make. Can I be vulnerable this morning? Can I? No? Yes? I have a confession to make. A few years ago, I became one of those tourists. One of those. You know the type. The ones who spend more time looking for the perfect picture than actually looking at the place. Have you seen them? I was standing at the Iguazu Falls in South America, right there. How many of you have been there, Iguazu Falls? How many of you have been at the Niagara Falls? Well, if you've seen the Niagara Falls, then just multiply that 3 times bigger, and then you have the Niagara Falls, the Iguazu Falls. I mean, the sound is deafening. Millions of gallons of water crushing every single second. Mist rising hundreds of feet into the air. Imagine. It's one of those places where your camera gives up before your eyes do. I heard there was something special when I came to this place. You could sometimes see at this particular place. And that is a nearly complete rainbow. It's what you see in the picture. It's a real picture. I didn't do anything with the picture. And that's what many people go there to look for also, this almost complete rainbow. So of course I went there, I waited, looked around, nothing. I moved a few feet back and nothing, still nothing. I moved again and suddenly there it was. Not just a rainbow, almost a complete circle. Brilliant, bright. It looked almost too perfect to be real. And I did what every mature adult would do. I immediately took out my phone. And yeah, I didn't take one picture. I took like 50 pictures of that same rainbow to show it to you. Now, the funny thing is, the people standing just a few yards away, they kept asking, "What are you taking pictures at?" They couldn't see it. I pointed right there, look, it's there. They squinted and, "I don't see anything," they said. I thought, how can you miss something that big? Then I realized a rainbow isn't really an object floating in the sky. It's a matter of perspective. If you're standing in the wrong place, the rainbow simply isn't there. The water is there, the sunlight is there, everything necessary is there, but unless you're standing where those two meet, you missed it completely. And that made me wonder, friends, how many of the greatest things in life have we missed? Not because they weren't real, but because we were looking from the wrong place. Today, I want to talk about a promise. Not just any promise, a promise spoken when hearts were breaking. A promise given when the future looked uncertain. A promise that many people read, but surprisingly, surprisingly, few ever truly see. So I want to invite you once again to John chapter 14. John chapter 14. Now listen, friends, in John chapter 14, is part of the upper room discourse. It's part of what, friends? Upper room discourse. The Bible records 4 different discourses. This is the last one of them. And not only the last one, but also the longest of all 4 by Jesus. This particular discourse, the upper room discourse, starts in chapter 13 and goes all the way to chapter 17. So 13 through 14, you find the upper room discourse. Now in John 14, the disciples are losing sight of hope. What are the disciples doing? Losing sight of hope. I want you to know that the context of John 14 that you know by heart is not just a nice promise that will happen later and everything is going fine at the moment. No, friends, they're actually going through a difficulty. They're actually going through a difficult time. They're losing sight of hope because of the pain. They're losing sight of hope because of the confusion. So Jesus doesn't merely give them information. Jesus gives them a promise. And the promise begins with an imperative. A commandment. It's passive, but at the same time, it's a commandment. Jesus is not saying, if you feel like. Jesus is saying, when you feel like this way, let not your heart be troubled. Can we see the next one? Let not your heart be troubled. The next one yet. This is how he starts this promise. And remember, this is connected with chapter 13. This is not a separate chapter. It comes after 13. And this is not something that was originally done. The chapters and the verses of the Bible were not there in the beginning. So whatever was happening in chapter 13 is why Jesus is giving this promise in chapter 14. And what took place in chapter 13, if you remember, is that these people were just about to betray Jesus. These disciples that they were at the upper room were about to deny Jesus. They were about to get into a trial. In this very context, this is chapter 13, Jesus is about to wash their feet. Jesus is about to celebrate communion with them. And he's about to tell them also, I'm leaving. In that context, Jesus gives this one promise. Again, the context for you to remember of chapter 14 and verses 1 and on is simply betrayal, denial, trial. Betrayal, denial, trial. The disciples are devastated. Jesus said, one of you will betray me. One of you will betray me. To Peter he says, you will deny me. And to all of them, I am living. So think about what they're going through in their minds. In their minds, they're feeling like life is falling apart. And then Jesus in chapter 14, with perhaps the most comforting words ever spoken, he says, let not your heart be troubled. So the first thing that we find in the promise, friends, now we go to the one back. I'm sorry. The first one that we find is hope. Jesus gives through this promise, hope in the middle of chaos. Hope in the middle of chaos. Now think again about it. Let not your heart be troubled. That one particular verse, that one commandment. It's like Jesus is suggesting that when we are troubled, next one please, when we are in trouble, when we are suffering, when everything wants to panic inside of us, Jesus says, let not your heart be troubled, as in suggesting that we can control our emotions when things go wrong. But notice, Jesus didn't say, don't be troubled after the resurrection. Jesus didn't say, don't be troubled after solving their problems. Jesus said, don't be troubled while everything was falling apart. Are you still with me, friends? This is very important, friends, because the promise found in John 14, I'm going to tell you now, is not for yesterday. I'm sorry. It's not for tomorrow. It's not for the future. The promise given in John chapter 14, listen, It is for today. It is for today. So he's saying this, don't be troubled when everything at the moment was falling apart. This, my dear friends, is hope in the making. Some of you might ask, hope, where do you see hope here? They are about to betray him. They are about to deny him. They are about to get into a trial. How can you see hope here? It's not the way I see it, it's the way the prophet of God sees it. I want to show you from the Desire of Ages what the comment on this is found in page 662. It says, the Savior's words, these very words, to them were full of what, everyone? Hope. Hope. Now, have you ever had one of those weeks where it feels like someone keeps pulling pieces out of your life? Have you ever felt like, man, there he goes, my good health. Another debt. My marriage is falling apart. You didn't leave it easy for me, Marcus and Masui. My marriage is falling apart. My kids are away from Jesus. This is not a good decision. My kids are just falling away from Jesus. And everything seems to be just going wrong in your week. Every single day is a new bad news in your life. Have you ever felt like that, friends? One bad thing after another. But you know what's amazing? Jesus never rebuilt their circumstances. In the middle of the trouble, in the middle of tribulation, in the problems that they were going at the moment, Jesus then said, let me take care of all these things. Let me just not let you deny me, Peter. Let me just change this desire that you have against me, Judas. Let me just change these elements, and then everything will be fine. Jesus didn't do that. Instead of changing or rebuilding their circumstances, Jesus decided to steady their hearts. Have you noticed that sometimes God, instead of changing that situation that is bringing you pain, He changes you? And so in that context, Jesus says, let not your heart be troubled. Let not your heart be troubled. Jesus, listen, didn't first fix their circumstances. He first calmed their hearts. Have you ever thought, or maybe next time you go through a difficult test, a difficult part of your life, remember, friends, not necessarily the circumstance will change. But if you come to Jesus and lay your burdens at His feet, what He's going to do for sure is to calm your hearts. Let not your heart be troubled. Now notice that this hope that God gives us through this is not something that we will receive tomorrow. It's something that we will receive at the moment we request for it. And then more promises adding to the promise. Because He continues saying, you believe in God. Jesus says, let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. Friends, these particular 3-4 verses of John 14, for us Seventh-day Adventists, is like our hymn. Is our marching orders. We believe we are found in those verses. And I have read these for more than 2 decades, go around these verses and read these verses until now that I notice the claim that Jesus is making here. Do you see it? Do you see it? You believe in God, believe also in me. Before I tell you who is saying this, I want you to think about this. Many of you know that I'm not rich. Even closer people know that I'm even almost bankrupt, like close. So if I give you a blank check signed by me, can we see the next picture? Can you see it? That's my name, that's my check, it's from my checkbook. If I give you this blank checkbook, you know that I'm not rich. You know that maybe you might be able to get a meal out of it. Maybe. And I said to you, hey, I give you this check, do whatever you want with it. I don't think you are going to get excited about it. Again, I give you a blank check for you, already signed, for you to do whatever you want. It's from my bank account that you can do whatever you want. I bet you will not get excited. But if I said, next one, Warren Buffett is sending a blank check for you to do whatever you want. Do you guys know who Warren Buffett is? One of the richest persons in the world. If you send that check, it says, okay, now give it to him. Give it to whoever wants it. And I bring it to you and he said, put the amount, spend it as you want it, use it. Blank check. Can you see the difference? It's paper, ink, pretty much the same elements, except who signed it. The difference is who signed it. Friends, it makes a whole difference who makes this promise. When Jesus says, believe also in me, the question isn't, can he make a promise? The question is, who is making the promise? Listen, friends, in the darkest night of the apostles' lives, listen to this, Jesus doesn't simply comfort them, he quietly reveals, next one, who he is. That's what he's doing. He's not only giving them a promise, he's revealing who he is to his disciples, to his apostles. He's telling them, the one that is giving you this promise is not just another person, it's not just another circumstance of your life. He's saying, I am the one giving you this blank check. But what is the big deal about this, friends? You believe in God, believe also in me. Do you hear what he just said? Did you see what he just did? He didn't say, believe God. He said, believe in me the same way you believe in God. Friends, no prophet ever spoke like that. No apostle ever spoke like that. No angel ever spoke like that. You know why? Because only God could. Many people question the Gospels and say, Jesus never claimed that he was God. Friends, he doesn't need to claim it. He taught it everywhere. Jesus is equating himself. You believe in God, believe also in me. It's a divine declaration. And this, my dear friends, is peace in the middle of disaster. This is peace in the middle of disaster, because the same creator of the universe is the one making a promise for you to not be troubled when you're going through the storms. Now listen, Jesus doesn't say, trust me. He doesn't say, trust me. Jesus says, you believe in God, believe also in me. What a claim. Who will say this? Who will say this? You believe in God, believe also in me. Who would say this? I mean, if I were to stand before you guys here and said, you believe in God, believe also in me. Rudy, believe also in me. I will expect from you stones, raw eggs, tomatoes. I mean, I expect that, and I will not be surprised you doing that, because who would say that? Why would Jesus say this? He would say it, he says it because he is trustworthy. He wants you to know that you can trust him. And ultimately, he says this because he is God. You believe in God, believe also in me. Check what the book Desire of Ages, how it frames this. He says, his last legacy to them was a legacy of peace. Friends, when you know who is in control of everything in this life, you can be at peace. You can be at peace. Yes, things will feel painful. They will be dark. Things will go wrong. And you will feel like without guidance. But if God is your God and you receive his promise and accept his promise, then friends, you will receive a long peace. The promises of God deliver peace to the recipients of the promises of God. Because friends, again, a promise is only as strong as the person making it. And this one promise is the most powerful promise because of the one that made it. You believe in God, then believe also in me. Peace. God not only gives you hope in the middle of calamity, God gives you also peace in the middle of disaster. But he also gives you something else in this promise. I want to take you now to the following verse. In my Father's house, Jesus says, in my Father's house, there are many mansions. And I want to spoil it to you. I want to spoil it. Many of you, I know, you're thinking about nice mansions there, like Hollywood kind of mansions, and you're thinking to have a statue with your own bodies just on the way going to the main entrance of your mansion. No, no, no. The word that is mentioned there is actually room. Room. It's not mentioning was the way they decided to translate it after the one of the versions, not directly from the Greek. In the Greek, it's simply a room. But not to diminish the power of the promise, friends, simply to realize that it's not about what we are going to receive, but who we are going to be with. What matters. But I want you to also see, oh, and remember that this is being said in a different context than the one that we understand and know today. Because back then, when in the time of Abraham, for instance, when they had a new baby, when they have a son and the son will have his own family, they didn't say bye and the son will go somewhere else. They will build a room next to the tent, like just an addition to the tent. And maybe they had another son, another addition, and another addition, and another addition. So the tent will be just getting bigger and bigger and bigger because of the addition for the new children or members of the family. Because the father wanted to have everyone nearby. This is the same symbolism that we find here. When Jesus says that in my Father's house there are many mansions, he's saying God is building more and more rooms, and he can build all the rooms you can all fit. Many times we think about the New Jerusalem. In the New Jerusalem, we think there will be just limited because the description of the size of this city is given in the book of Revelation. Many think we might not fit there. There will not be enough room for that. No, friends, plenty of room for everyone. Somebody put numbers together, and I think it's about 20 to 25 billion people that can fit in only 25% of the city. There is room for everyone. And good news, there is room for you. There are many mansions. I go to prepare a place for you. I want you to notice the present tense there. There are. It doesn't say there will be. There are. And then the promise is not that I will do. He says, I go. I'm going to prepare. I'm preparing a place for you. Jesus gives in the middle of this promise purpose in the middle of waiting. Purpose in the middle of waiting. That's what Jesus is giving now. He gives you a purpose. We are waiting for him to come back, but this is not just, let's see what happens tomorrow. It's something that we were given even for today. Because again, remember, the disciples were thinking, Jesus was leaving them. But Jesus is saying, I'm living for you, for your benefit. To them, Jesus was living. To Jesus, he was beginning another ministry. They saw an ending. Jesus saw preparation. They saw absence. Jesus saw purpose. And again, there are many mentions. I go and prepare place. Again, go, are, present tense, friends, is for today. Notice that Jesus does not say, one day I'll prepare. Nor does he say, I already prepared everything. He says, I go to prepare. I go to prepare. That's why the cross was necessary. That's why resurrection was necessary. That's why ascension was necessary. That's why his ministry before the Father was necessary. Everything that follows becomes part of his work for them. I go to prepare. And friends, not just for them, not just then, even now. Jesus is not inactive. He's working. While we sleep, he works. While we cry, he intercedes. While we wait, he prepares. This is what Jesus is doing now. And not just what he's going to do. This is, my dear friends, is the purpose of our wait. He's preparing a place for us, but also he's preparing us for that place. Imagine, let me illustrate this. Imagine a bride on the day after the engagement. They get engaged, the proposal, and after that day, imagine that woman. She isn't discouraged because the wedding hasn't happened yet. Why? Because she knows someone is preparing. Every passing day doesn't weaken her hope. It strengthens it. Every day means one day closer. Every day means more preparation has been completed. Waiting becomes joyful because someone she loves is actively getting ready for her. The Christian life is much the same. Our waiting is not empty. Our Savior is busy, and so must we. So must we, friends. Because at the same time that he's preparing a place for us, he's also preparing a people for that place. Let me show it to you. Let me show it to you in a clear way from the book Desire of Ages, page 663. Listen, while Jesus was building mansions for them, listen to this part. They were to build what, everyone? Characters after the divine similitudes. So we're waiting for Jesus to come back, but this wait is not an idle wait. It's a wait that will keep us busy, full of hope, full of peace, but at the same time, shaping that group of people, billions of people, that will be the inhabitants of those mansions. I pray that you will be one. Jesus is preparing a place, and we are preparing a people. Friends, waiting is never wasting. Waiting is never wasting. And then it comes. And then it comes, the greatest phrase, the one that we live for and we think about many times. Even when death comes to our way, we think about that time when Jesus comes back again and our loved ones will resurrect and we will reunite. This is it. And Jesus says, after making all these promises of hope and peace and purpose, now he says, I will come again. And this, my friends, is reunion in the middle of separation. The promise has reunion in the middle of separation. The passage began with Jesus saying, I'm leaving. Now it ends with Jesus saying, I'm coming back. That's beautiful. The disciples feared separation. Jesus promised reunion. Many of you, friends, because we are so close to a base, many of you know about military homecoming. You know about that. A parent, a husband, a spouse waits months for a son, for a husband, for a wife, a daughter. After they being deployed overseas, every day they check their phones to see where they are, to see if they have sent a message. Every day they wonder. Then one day the doors open. The soldier walks in. Nobody says it was about time. They run, they embrace, their waiting disappears in one hug. Then they say Christianity. Then you have to think Christianity isn't waiting for an event, it is waiting for a person. And when that person comes back, when that person shows up, you don't think about the wait anymore. All you think about is that the person is there with you. And friends, that's John chapter 14. That is John chapter 14. It's not about us thinking Jesus is delaying. He's not here yet. It's that we are so excited and busy that when he arrives, even if 100 years went by, we do not care. All we care is that he is here with us. The Great Controversy book says, friends long separated by death are united, never more to part. I'm so looking forward to that moment. So looking forward to that moment. Because I lost people that I love so much. I want to see them again. But I want to see Jesus face to face. That is the greatest dream I have. And I know that moment is coming. And it's coming soon. This is what God wants to do with us. This is what God wants to do for us. But is that all? Is that what the promise is all about? Just give me, give me, give me. Here, the gifts. Here, the blessings. No, friends, there is something small that we need to do. And I want to invite you to the last verse. And this is a decision in the middle of uncertainty. Decision in the middle of uncertainty. Jesus says, Thomas asked the question, how do we get there? We don't know the way. We don't know how to get there. And Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. After chaos, after disaster, after waiting, after the separation, there is one question that remains. Where do we go from here? Notice, friends, Jesus does not give us a philosophy. He does not give us a formula. He does not give us a list of instructions. He gives us Himself. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. No one. The way to get and enjoy those mansions, those rooms, those tents, those places that are being customized, the color you like, the way you like it, the bed you like it, the mattress you like, everything is getting ready for you, friends. But there is one thing that needs to take place. And that is not on God anymore, because He has done everything. Now it's on you. Why has Jesus not come yet? Simply because there is one room that He's preparing. But the inhabitant of that room hasn't said yes yet. He can't finish that room because the person that needs to accept that one room has to say yes yet. So Jesus is waiting. He's waiting for you to say, yeah, I want that room. He's waiting for you to hire Him as the contractor, the heavenly contractor, for He to customize your room. Friends, we are not lost because Jesus is the way. We are not confused because Jesus is the truth. We are not afraid of death because Jesus is the life. There is nothing to fear in this world, friends. Satan is doing everything to discourage us. Satan is throwing at our faces anything and everything that can lead us away from the Lord, but there is nothing to fear. Let not your heart be troubled. Because with the same intensity and certainty that we have trust in God all these years, Jesus says, just like that, trust in me when I tell you, I give you hope when you are in chaos. I give you peace when you are in the middle of disaster. I give you purpose when you're waiting. And that separation that you might be feeling, that separation that you might be afraid of, friend, I give you a reunion. And this is Jesus' promise for you. Not for tomorrow, but for today. For today. That rainbow that we started this with, that almost complete circle rainbow, is the most beautiful most beautiful symbol of a promise. Because you know the rainbow in Genesis was God's promise not to destroy the earth by water again. But in John chapter 14, Jesus gives another promise. Not about preserving this world, but about coming to take His people into a restored world. That rainbow reminds us that God has always been a promise maker. And more importantly, God has always been a promise keeper. At the Iguazu Falls, I saw a rainbow that lasted only a little while. Eventually, the angle of the sun changed, the mist shifted, and it simply disappeared. It wasn't there a few seconds later. But the promise made in John chapter 14 has never faded. Empires have risen and fallen. Generations have come and gone. 2,000 years have passed, yet His words remain unchanged. I will come again. I will come again. Friends, maybe this is not your life. Maybe this is too good for you to say, this represents my life. Maybe yours is more like this. Maybe it's more like this. Maybe that represents better your life. And today, as we talked about chaos, as we talked about disaster, today as we talked about waiting and separation, maybe those things actually describe your own life. This is how your life is right now. Maybe you are in the middle of chaos and you need hope. Maybe you are in the middle of disaster and you need peace. Maybe you are in the middle of waiting and you need purpose. Maybe you are in the middle of separation and you need the promise of reunion. But above everything else, friends, above everything else, you need a decision. A decision is what makes everything to come together and in order again. Because the question is not whether Jesus is the way. He already is. He already said it. He is the way. It's not about Jesus being the way or not. It is about, will you follow Him? Will you follow Jesus? Only Jesus can put the pieces of your messed up life, of your ruined life, of your disoriented life, of your painful life, of your messy life back in order. And that, my dear friends, is not a promise for tomorrow. It's a promise for today. Make Jesus your Savior and your Lord.